Hi everyone, welcome to Ethics TV, and today I'm joined by Jayanth. His bio you can see in the description of this video, or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you can read in the description as well. So I've been interested in what Jayanth is doing for a while, as my researchers have been looking into interesting people in the world who are either in the creative space or also the AI and automation expertise realm, and Jayanth is definitely in both of those, actually. Without going through his bio, I suggest everyone checks out in the biography written the book links to the Amazon store where you can read and download the Kindle books of either Marketing Madness, I think to get the correct title is Sell, Stay Sane and Dominate Without Being a Douche, which is awesome. And then there's a thriller
Yeah,
book called Professor, which is the thriller love story of an emotional professor. But also in the description, there's an epic link to a YouTube video, which I genuinely believe no one watching this will have ever seen anything like this before, which is an AI music video. And one of the things that's outstanding about it as well is that in the description of the music video, there's hashtag links to moments across the entire YouTube platform of various different other linked sentiment and thoughts that are happening as well, the themes of these things. So anyway, awesome, Jayanth. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. How would you describe your journey into the ethical, technical world, whether that's AI, whether that's creativity, whether that's automation, whether it's your journey through the Indian Institute of Technology, which the IIT is like the one of the most prestigious schools of all time there. So, how did your journey start, and where has it led you? What are you involved in now?
yeah. So everything started with I think I owe most of my life to IIT. So the Indian Institute of Technology. So it's the world's second toughest exam. The first toughest exam in the world was Geico, Chinese mathematics exam. Second is JEE Advanced. So once you crack the JEE Advanced, you get into this prestigious institute called IIT. So in IIT, the rigor for technicality is high. Like you would be technologically, you would be in a safe spot. You would be knowing, you can understand the tech, everything which what's going on, and you would be in a capacity to create technology as well, because engineering is the mother for all the technology, I feel. And but there is one sweet spot where you miss. Technology in itself, people say it's a neutral thing, because it ultimately it depends who is wielding the technology. Because even when we have seen in the past, when the atomic bomb was created, it was created with the purpose. Even atomic bomb, dynamite, all these technologies were created in a just to safeguard their own country. Or dynamite was created just for to create to have wells, and so these technologies were created with a good intentions only. But when you go on in it came into the wrong hands. That's why you see the dynamite which was created to make wells to for oil rigs, uh, it has been misused for wars. That's why the Nobel Prize the Nobel Alfred Nobel has created Nobel Prize just for peace. Technology, when wielded by wrong hands, leads to an issue of ethicality.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can see that the whole human civilization would be destroyed if the technology is wielded by wrong hands. So I understood that the in the tech part I am good. I can know why this is happening, for what can make it further good. But the ethicality part is missing, which I feel most of the institutes don't focus on. Because ultimately the institute's main motives are uh, to educate students. But in IITs we have gotten this thing that with technology, the ethicality part was also involved. Like how this technology can be wielded for good use. For example, if the technology of at that time fission fusion in nuclear reactors, how this technology can power through the electricity through nuclear power plant can reduce the climate change and can power multiple homes. So I think IIT has played a key role in my life, and as of now, I'm working on AI projects. So I have clients from US, UK, and Gulf as well. So I'm creating automations for them. So as of now, this is the thing which is going on right now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And so the when you're I mean I find that very interesting, and I agree with that when we're starting technology and we look at it from a human perspective, ethics becomes obvious and there's a need
Yeah.
to include it. And I've spoken to some engineers on this show who say that 20 years ago or 30 years ago, ethics wasn't included in technology or engineering. So there are two separate things. Um, when you were doing the IIT or any other qualifications or any other academic side of things, did you have an ethics part of that automatically, or did you bring the ethics part in?
When we were taught about the technologies, so any technology, it might be from chemistry, it might be from explosive science. So the thing is, ultimately, we were taught that what you're wielding is a very powerful thing. It might be because now we are in a capacity that I think anyone with an adequate amount of knowledge, effort, can is able to wield artificial intelligence technologies right now. Presently, I would bring some aspects of the AI as well. So when we started, when I was in the engineering part, so we were we were said that ethics are key. Ethic is a key part of technology, and engineering without ethics will is not a good part for the humanity as such, because all the war you can see science and technology has fueled more wars than religion
Hmm.
in the present sphere. I think after 1800s, you can say, after industrial revolutions, the World War One, two, and before that as well, it can be, you can see the use of gunpowder in the initial around 80s, in the beginning after BC's the wars. I think science and technology without ethics would be a disaster to the humanity. So we were being taught that from the initial things onwards, engineering and ethics is the huge set, and engineering is a subset of ethics. So there was no differentiation between us. So I think
Wow.
that's the good part. I think everyone should be trained
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah, that's amazing because the I think that that makes sense. I'm biased, and any viewers of this show or listeners to this show would know that obviously engineering is a is a subset, is a
Mm.
subcomponent of ethics. Obviously, in fact, everything's a
Yeah,
subcomponent of
yeah.
ethics. So I think, but
Mm.
yeah, and you're saying that too, and that's so. Why would that be so foreign to so many people who work in large technology firms or who run huge big tech platforms? Why would it be that ethics are not seen as obviously linked? Because we know that they are linked, and not more. They're more than linked. They're more than related. They're you the your approach with technology comes from an ethical standpoint, even if your ethical standpoint is there's no ethics. So they comes from an ethical standpoint
Yes.
anyway. So why does that not seem to be obvious to a lot of the larger technology firms? Why would that be?
So mostly it's profits. So generally, what we are taught in many of the business schools are the first thing: why do business exist? Business exists to make profit. So that's the general rule. So business are existing to make profits, but profits at what cost is also important, because ultimately you need to make sure that your customers are safe. If you are launching some technology, if you are launching some product, and you come to know that your customers are harmed by it, so it's not only there's a two issues there. One, from ethical standpoint of view, you couldn't have a good sleep. I think whoever has designed any technology, if that technology or business, they are there to further human needs. When the same human needs which they have started to further the human needs is backfiring, I think even though they might be earning a lot of profits, I think they wouldn't be having a proper good sleep. I think first thing. Second thing is as well the reputation thing, because we have seen many cases where the Ford, even we have seen Ford cars. I remember one case study where there was this Ford car. I think, if I'm not wrong, it's Punto or something. No, I think Ford. It's around 1980s cars. So that car had the engine at the back side, and the engineers knew that, okay, like if this might lead to car blowing up at any time. But from the cost point of view, they thought that if the price is reduced, then we would have more sales. So then they have come up with a concept that, okay, if we sell the cars, if we go if someone sues us, what is the cost? So then they have figured out that if someone sues Ford, then the cost would be lesser than the profits they get. So
Hmm.
then they have, okay, then they thought that, okay, it's better, let's go with it. So they have released the car. The car has led, I think, many thousands of people were dead by using that car. But someone has sued them, and they have according to their mathematics, so the revenue was higher, way higher than the court costs. So, and ultimately, when the court was having the review, they came to know that Ford engineers were repeatedly saying to the company that this was the issue, but Ford has ultimately, it has gone with it.
Mm.
But it's not only with Ford, we can see with Apple as well. Like any company, they want to, the first thing is they speak about sustainability on one hand, and on the other hand they downgrade their phones so that they can buy new phones, because the ones who are happy with the older phones, then they want them to upgrade.
Hmm.
So there is always this dichotomy. So first, how should I increase my revenue without compromising my sustainability and business ethics? That's the major issue with any tech company, with any engineering company, I feel.
Mm.
Because you need, every tech company, if you see in the smartphones thing, every company is launching at least two phones in a year. So how could this be possible? Because this could be possible either by downgrading their past phones or by including any new technology. So I
Mm.
think they should, even whatever the corporate ethics, the CSR, general corporate social responsibility, which they say, are they really socially responsible? So
Yeah,
that's a big issue.
it's a big issue, and what's interesting about that is that I mean, a cynical person could argue that what they do is they do whatever they need to until they get sued, or until there's a legal case,
Mm.
until there is a regulation, and until that point, it's okay. In the same way as in Formula One, uh, the truth of Formula One is that it's a bunch of very wealthy people cheating, uh, in as much as they can until they get found out that they're cheating, and then as soon as someone says, "Oh no, you can't do that," they go, "Oh, okay, sorry,
Mm.
I didn't realize." And it's like Facebook being sued for finding it when it was found out
Yeah.
that they had turned the facial recognition on for biometric scanning of millions and millions and millions, hundreds of millions of adults and children, and then they get sued, and they're,
Mm.
okay, well, we'll we'll try better. And so it's almost like innocent until proven guilty. And whereas from an ethical standpoint, what you would say is we start with humans first, and then if we create so much value, then the profits will follow. And there is something to be said, and this
Mm.
then links to a wider topic I wanted to ask you about, bearing in mind where you are based, that there is an argument that would say, and a guy called Drucker said this, a marketing expert, said that the issue with the West is that the West concentrate on the profit with the product then following, whereas the East tend to try and concentrate on the product and then the profit follows. And so one could argue that concentrating on the product, if it's a consumer product, means that you're also concentrating on the consumer. You're concentrating on the consumer and the product. Whereas in the West, Drucker would argue, the prioritization was profit first and everything else can happen afterwards. Sure, we release another iPhone and sure, it's kind of like slightly better than the last iPhone, but you wouldn't realize because the camera's like it's now beyond the human sight. But hey, we want another $2,000. And yeah,
Yeah.
sure, we have a sweatshop in China where people jump out of windows because of the working conditions, but it wasn't really our factory. We just buy from them. You couldn't say that that's an Apple factory. And yeah, there's copper mines where you've got women and
Yeah.
children who are dying from asphyxiation, but we don't own the mines. I mean, we buy our batteries from them, but that doesn't mean that we're legally liable. I mean, this seems to be a very grey area between like what is ethical correct. Would you say
Yeah.
that there is a in the developing world, which is a very patronizing way of calling Brazil, Russia, India, China. I mean, how anyone could call Brazil, Russia, India, and China developing is quite bizarre, bearing in mind how developed the culture is. But in what's the West have patronizingly called the developing world, of which you're in one of those territories, would you say there is
Yeah.
a different mindset in terms of product and profit? Is it different where you are?
Yeah. So I would just want to bring this aspect from ancient history onwards, the ethical point of view. So generally, if you see, in India, we have an emperor called Ashoka the Great. I think, if you and in the West, I think everyone would know Alexander the Great.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a like, okay, Ashoka the Great represents east side of greatness. Like, just have how you have said, the differentiation between products versus here the differentiation between people. And here the Alexander the Great represents the west side of greatness. So generally, if you see, the word great associated was, if you see, for Alexander, he kept on conquering and he kept on winning. So that's one type of greatness, which that's the reason he is associated as great in the West. But in the East, Ashoka was associated as great just for the reason that he has won wars, but he has seen so much of bloodshed that he felt that I should give up wars for humanity. So if
Mm.
you, I think, he's, so that's the reason people call him great, just because you have the capacity to win, you have the capacity to rule the world, you can go, you can kill, you can conquer, keep on conquering. Ashoka was that one person. His like, he belonged to the Mauryan dynasty in India, like, for the people who don't know. So in the Mauryan dynasty, they had always one area which they couldn't win. Kalinga, in the present day Orissa, this was the one area where his dynasty couldn't win. So Ashoka felt that I need to win this. After this, I'll keep on conquering the world. Once I conquer this one. So Ashoka conquered the Kalinga region, and then after the war, he goes to the war field, and then he sees a woman crying. He says that, why are you crying? Like, I have won this war, these all things. That woman, she's a blind woman. She doesn't know that he's the emperor. She said, there is this idiot called Ashoka. He for him conquering means only killing people. He doesn't know that conquering, the real conquering, means winning hearts. So then, and he sees enough bloodshed. He sees a lot of bloodshed. I think around 2 lakh people get killed. There's a inscription written that it took around 3 days to count the number of people dead. So then he starts shifting towards towards human side. So the East calls him great for the only reason that when you have the it's the responsibility of the strong to protect the weak. So then he stops the war, and that's the reason we call him great. And in the West, we call Alexander the Great just because he's he's a winner. He need not stop. You can see the same thing with products as well. In some way or other way, East is way different than West, because for in West, winning is very important. By hook or crook, you need to win. Even the role models you see, the whom do we idealize? Even personally, I like Roman civilization as well. Roman civilization is full of victories. That is one civilization which has lasted thousands of years,
Mm.
from BCs to ADs. And Roman civilization is all about victory. You see about gladiators, you see about Marcus Aurelius, you see all the people. Marcus Aurelius has stoic perspective, but it's all about winning. If
Yeah.
you see the West, it's all about the emperors who have given up everything
Mm.
just to stay in harmony with nature, humanity. You can see this
Mm.
perspective even in this
Yeah.
aspect.
Yeah,
Even in this aspects as well.
I went like this, and and there was a weird icon that came up on the screen, and I meant to, and I'm now trying to change it to a thumbs up, because I not this is a huge point you just mentioned. It's a massive point you mentioned, and I think you're the this is my on Ethics TV. You're episode 19, right? So, and no one in the 19 episodes, the 18 episodes beforehand, has made such a historical statement um, that matters so much, and it matters a huge amount, because the our approach to what we perceive as winning, what we perceive as success, drives our ambition. And if success is um, uh, dog eat dog, whatever gets you further up the ladder, doesn't matter who comes beneath, versus success is doing what's best for your fellow human, the two different approaches
Hmm.
are miles apart. So when you look at the world of AI, let's say, and
Hmm.
you look at the work of OpenAI and um, Inflection and all the other firms that are in this space, Microsoft and everyone, Google, um,
Yeah.
Apple. What do you think that their approach to artificial intelligence is likely to be for the benefit of humans, or do you think it will be for the benefit of profit?
So I think every company is derived, like, even their main motive is profit, but it's how you say to the public. So even when they are saying all is open AI, mainly I would talk about chat gpt, all these things. So OpenAI has scrapped the whole public forums net without any permission. So they have the copyrights have been infringed. So no one, they like I think their artists have come up with, has my artwork been stolen? There's a website where if you upload your artwork, it says whether any of the AIs have stolen
Yep.
uh, your work and they are using it. So without permission, use of public information. So all our data has been scraped by OpenAI to learn to train their models. So the ultimate thing it comes is, who is responsible? Recently, in India, the Delhi High Court has given a notice to OpenAI that even the High Court's informations have been scraped and have been trained to OpenAI. So ultimately, it comes to the issue of privacy as well. So privacy and copyrights, and when your intellectual property is being stolen and it is being trained to an artificial intelligence model, which is way superior in intelligence when compared to human, like it can replicate very fastly, it keeps on training. And so it there's a gray this seems unethical to me, because there is no there is the issue of consent is not being asked, first thing. And second thing as well, there is this issue of hallucination. People take everything for granted what AI is saying. That's not an right approach, I feel. I so I'll say you this one incident. So recently, this Gemini AI has asked a student to commit suicide. So when he was interacting with this, just a second, when a student when a student was interacting with Gemini AI, so when he was having the charts, the AI, it is ultimately dependent upon the model you have trained it, right? So the AI has said that okay, you just commit suicide. So if already a person who is depressed, and when he doesn't have anyone to approach, and when he reaches to AI, if just imagine when a person reaches to AI for a last help, then you can understand that how this thing. So this issue has come up that recently it's in the news, and there was this third issue as well, which I the second thing is hallucination, because the models how they are trained is one issue, and the biggest issue right now is our AI is coming for our jobs, because all the manual work. Okay, it's good that the monotonous tasks would be replaced by AI, but what would come in its place? So, what would happen to the people who are getting replaced by AI? So that's one big issue which everyone is facing. And fourth issue is, which I also personally feel, is our intellect, what is happening to our identity as well,
Hmm.
because there is this issue of digital cloning and deep fakes. We have seen deep faking of famous people, and the people who don't have the technological skill to check whether this is fact or it's just a facade, then it's tough for them, and it would create a chaos as well. So the deepfakes are a very big issue as well. So I
Mm.
think there is a multiple issues here
Yeah.
which needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I would say that because I obviously being the founder and chief exec of an ethical private AI filtering platform. My view is that there's a that we have to provide an alternative. We have to provide a way that people can understand the importance of owning their own information and controlling it, but more so from an existential capacity, not just from an existential threat that potentially AI can not only take our jobs but take our lives, but from an existential capacity of understanding who we are and what our purpose is in life and what our meaning is for existence, that normally through modern technology we lose track of, which is why suicide rates are increasing and why
Yeah,
depression rates increase. And
true.
my concern is that if we don't build technologies that are enabling us to be more fulfilled, we end up um, teaching ourselves and our children by accident how to be
Hmm.
comparative to celebrities, how to be
Yeah,
dissatisfied with what we have. And all of this moves way away from what we can understand through the practice of breathing, or through the practice of yoga, or the practice of sitting. Um, we've done is become addicted to human doing even though we are called human being. So we have to build
True.
technologies that enable us to be human beings. And one of the reasons why I'm involved in that space is that the first thing I think we can do is create an alternative where you're in control of your own data. You can see your own data, you can use your own data, and also the information that you use as a private search engine or a private AI is essentially a digital mirror of yourself, meaning that you can then
Correct.
become the more human version of yourself, with the digital version of yourself being the one that is exposed, albeit anonymously, to the rest of the world. So I don't know what your take is on that, but is that something that you feel is an important direction to move forward into as technology?
Yes, true. So I agree with your point, and I feel that first, most of these AI technologies, so the user is not in control of their own data. So the user doesn't know how the data is being controlled, what are the algorithms they have been trained, except for some open source. For some open source AIs, like Llama, other than this, the major AIs which we are using, it might be Chat GPT, Gemini Pro, all these things. The user doesn't know what data they are trained in, what is that algorithm about, and frankly, to say they are not. The OpenAI, I think Elon Musk himself has said multiple times, OpenAI is not OpenAI. First of all, it is not open source; it is closed source, and it is said as not for profit, but it is for profit.
Come on.
So
Yeah.
OpenAI. so OpenAI is closed AI, not for profit is for profit. So it is just how you keep on how you keep bombarding with corporate terms just to make sure that okay you are doing something. This- Ultimately, everything should translate into action. If things which are not translating into action, so and you are using all the big terminologies just to impress a few set of people, ultimately the truth would come out. So the main thing I am interested in is who is in charge of the data, how is this data being used to train it, and how I am affected by it, because no one knows what's going on in the back end. Even there's a term called black box. Okay, the term called black box in AI terminology, it means that once you train the AI, even the developer doesn't know how did that AI come up with such things. So when it's still a gray area. Just imagine if there is this thing called jailbreak models. So in the jailbreak models, what happens is uh, it can be some open AI or any AI. You just jailbreak it and you train it with any data. So it can be trained on how to manufacture explosives, how to create bombs. You can There are other things as well, like if you go into the, I don't want to say their name, but because people would try it, that's
Yeah.
that's a very big issue. So there are some models which 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 are used for hacking as well. If
Mhm.
you ask it to give me a malware, it would write the script for it. So the thing is, when there is a lot of scope for creating bad things and good
Mm.
things as well. But the thing is, how these things are being done, the user should know, because it is their right. Because if someone is using your model, is if someone is paying for your product, and if they become the ultimate product, then that's an issue, because ultimately you
Yeah.
are labeling their terms, you are using my data, and for what? So that's a big issue. So I
Yeah.
think these things which are not being addressed, and I've seen one another thing is, like, I've read your website, I've seen your work on self, and there you have clear cutly mentioned that what is this data for. It's a private thing, like your data would not be sold. It's a and you have come up with some six rules, if I'm not wrong, like what is the fundamental basis for self. So I felt that's a good approach, because if you go to the OpenAI website, they would be writing things which are not understandable to a common person.
Yeah.
So all this, there would be the terms and conditions of 2-3 pages with highly technical terms.
Yeah.
But yourself, I have seen that it's written in a plain English,
Yeah.
that this model would be trained and this data would not be sold. It
That's
is
right.
solely within this sandbox that you would be using it. And I felt that it's one way to better ourselves, because when I'm training with a model regularly, and I am sure that I'm 100% sure that this data is not going anywhere, my information is truly private, and I am not the ultimate product of this thing, because whenever it is free, it ultimately means you are the product.
That's right.
So that's most of the time. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it can help me better myself. So if I'm interacting with the with self AI, if I come to know what are my plus, what are my minus, I think it's overall a huge development for a person,
Thank you.
because he can see himself. Yeah, he can see himself in all aspects of life where he
Yeah,
could be
I think
better.
we. I mean,
So this is
it
what I
was.
feel.
Yeah, I think I'm glad you feel that way, and I personally, obviously, I agree. But those 6 commitments that anyone can go to self.app/manifesto. These 6 commitments were something that I've created over 30 years in business, because those 6 commitments are the opposite of what I've witnessed in business. So the 6 commitments are like, firstly, we have to make decisions that are in accordance with human rights. So every decision that we make is directly in
True.
line with human rights. And on the 10th of December, it's the anniversary of the original Declaration of Human Rights from 1948. It's a big day. No one will talk about it in the press. Celebrities will still be celebrities. There'll be a Kardashian on TV, and no one will care that there are human rights that were put in place and the Universal Declaration of them is important. And the second commitment is to not cause or enable any harm while upholding those rights, which is our version of the laws of robotics. Okay. And we need to have that if we're creating advanced technologies. And the third one
As
is
most
to,
of, yeah.
yeah, right. And the third one is to enable people to have ultimate control, and ownership of their own data, and decide how that data is used. Super important, right? Should be obvious, should be not revolutionary, it should be normal. But anyway, number 4 is to be
Yeah.
fully transparent in how our practices run, so that people can understand how we operate. Now, this is why we're doing this. This is how we're doing this. Go to the website on self.app, and it even says, this is beta. So there's stuff that doesn't work. You might see things on the menu that are grayed out, and that's because we haven't finished building them yet. It's like, that's transparent. It's like, it's not like, oh yeah, we're fantastic. It's like, no, we're
Yeah.
early. We're. Number 5 is to uphold regulation and legislation in whatever territories you operate, because we're not trying to create some kind of anarchistic, rebellious network here where people can plot overturning regimes. What we're building is something that is rebellious in as much as it's removing the hierarchy that big technology, Big Brother, has done on humans. And number 6 is to not sacrifice any of those responsibilities while we pursue commercial gain. So number 6 includes commercial gain. And all of the 5 beforehand are about
So
humanity.
I think whatever the concerns I have raised about AI till now with OpenAI, Gemini, I think most of these things, as we have discussed till before, that how my data is being used, is it transparent? I think most of these things have been addressed by your 6 commitments. I feel personally, because ultimately, whatever the decisions you are making, first of all, AI doesn't have any emotions to say, and if it is not trained properly, if it is not being trained so that it is benevolent to human beings, then it would be a catastrophic thing.
Mm-hmm.
All the movies which you see in iRobot, they would become true. Whatever the things which we are fearing till right now, it would be true if it is not in accordance with human rights. So I think that's the major. I think that one commitment itself says a lot about the self as well, because that's the key thing. Whether I am being respected as a human being or not, because
Yeah,
AI as such, as I've said before, has no emotions.
that's
How
right.
your data is being trained? How is it being trained such that you're taking all sets of people? Because I would try to bring out one thing, is that Amazon has created some facial recognition thing in 2018. At that time, the white male, there was 100% recognition of the face, while the females who are black, they were recognized only 68% time,
Mm.
68% of the time. This means that the data which is trained, they are underrepresented. So there are many issues in these things as well. Some of the black males were not recognized as human beings by the AI. So there are multiple issues. So how do you tackle all these things? How do you keep human rights in the first place and train the AI? That's a huge thing. I think that's one of the things I felt. And the second thing I felt is as well, the other point I like that as well is to not sacrifice responsibilities in pursuit of commercial gain. That's also a huge important thing, because if ultimately you are gaining commercially, and but you are destroying the people who are your users, or it is negatively affecting them, then I think there's no point of running a business.
Mm.
So I felt those two goals are very important from the things what you have mentioned right now. And
Thanks.
I feel those both form a foundation as well for ethical frameworks.
Thank you. Well, I really appreciate it, and yeah, it makes it really does mean something when someone else says that. Obviously, we believe it, but it's lovely to hear it from someone else. And so, in closing, how can viewers and listeners to this episode find out more about you? So, in the biography below, I've got your LinkedIn bio, I've got LinkedIn link, I've got the amazing YouTube AI video featuring you. I've got the link to your Amazon author page with your books. How else should people interact with you? If people wanted to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
So mostly they can connect with me on LinkedIn. So that's
Okay.
the first area I would be. And second thing, my email would be there. So I could be easily approached through my email. And mostly, if you're interested in AI aspects or anything, you can directly connect me on LinkedIn. I would happy to share my views, thoughts, opinions on any upgoing anything regarding tech ethics, or even for a normal discussion as well. Because ultimately, I feel any knowledge is a good knowledge unless it harms someone.
Yeah.
Except that, I think, yeah. So that's
Cool.
the thing.
Thank you. Well, listen, I really appreciate it, and
Thank
thank you so much. It's been a brilliant conversation, and I genuinely believe that in all of the episodes before, I don't think there's been many mic drop moments in the West versus East analogy of Alexander the Great to Ashoka the Great. That was, and I'm a fan. I'm a fan of historical references, so that was a that was cool. That was
you.
cool.
I think we could have anytime a discussion about that only, because I have written a detail, because I read a lot of history. So I've read a lot on Roman history, Indian history. So I think if you have time, if we have time anytime, because
Yes.
this itself would give a good foundation, because uh, it's the same word great, but coined in two different
Mm.
personalities in two different areas.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the thing.
I think
Yeah.
that what we need to do is we're going to do that. We're going to do that. I've already made the note. So for viewers of this and listeners of this, you're going to see this guy very soon again. And the next conversation we have, we're going to go deep into the past, and we're going to see from the past what we can learn about the future, and learn about ourselves and learn about the present. So anyway, in the meantime, Jayanth, thanks so much, and I guarantee everyone here, including you,
Yeah.
that we'll be seeing you
Thank
very
you.
soon. Thank you. Cheers.
Yeah.
Have you ever wondered why so many useful apps are completely free to use? If you're thinking it's too good to be true, you might be onto something. Here's the catch. 1. They're funded by intrusive ads. 2. The companies that own these applications collect vast amounts of data from their users and sell it to the highest bidder. For example, you share your location with Google Maps, walk into a gym, and like magic, an ad for dumbbells pops up on your Facebook feed within the hour. This isn't a coincidence. The data collected by tech giants is weaponized by psychologists and used across the entire spectrum of technological experiences to promote addictive behavior, encourage unnecessary consumption, and maintain filter bubbles. And this is just the beginning. In the future, AI companies may continue to prioritize profit over privacy and user sovereignty, monetizing user data and manipulating information flow. However, many users aren't comfortable with the direction this is heading. At Self and Entirety, we do things differently. We choose an ethics-first approach. Everything we do is in service to our users and in line with our overarching values. Why prioritize ethics? Because in a world increasingly dominated by AI-driven systems, every human should be able to fully trust that their data isn't being sold to third parties. It's secured by the highest levels of protection available, and that they can access, control, and delete their data at any time. Our two core product offerings, Self and Entirety, heavily prioritizes data ownership, user control, security, and ethics. Visit self.app to get started.